Welcome to Easy Peasy Books, From Author to Authority, the lively and engaging podcast for business professionals who've always believed they have a book in them. I'm your host, Jillian Whitney. Join me as I chat with authors and industry experts from all around the world to explore simple strategies to write, publish, and leverage your business book. Whether you're an entrepreneur, executive, or an employee, this podcast is for you. Woohoo! And we're live once again on another Tuesday, and I have a friend from across the pond tonight, so it's evening for him and morning for me. And I have Niraj here today. And Niraj, thank you so much for coming on the show. And before we get stuck in with our topic, can you please just go ahead, introduce yourself, tell people who you are and what you do, and then we will jump right in.
Certainly. Hi, everybody. My name is Niraj. I'm a personalized one-to-one coach. I like to use the word personalized because it's not copy and paste. Everything is done individually for you. I spent my entire corporate career working in sales. Then I wrote my book, Everybody Works in Sales, which took off. And I then set up my own business as a sales trainer. And then in lockdown, I pivoted to a LinkedIn trainer because I ended up going viral several times on LinkedIn, which was completely unexpected. But it was all to do with storytelling and being authentic and being the real me. And now I spend half my week doing LinkedIn coaching and half my week doing sales coaching.
Awesome. And you did throw in top voice in there somewhere, right? So that's that's an amazing thing too. It's just like, wow.
And also, even in my headline, it says original top voice, because now, LinkedIn for almost a year, we're giving top voice badges like giving out candy. I mean, everybody I know is a top recruitment voice, top sales development voice, just because they spent 2 hours contributing to AI articles. And it's so ridiculous. So now I literally say, look, I'm an original top voice. I'm not one of the candy takers. It was given to me when it meant something,
And those are gone. So that's good. It's funny when you said that, I envisioned Oprah, like, you get a voice, you get a badge, everybody gets a badge. But that's going away. So now the top voices are truly the top voices chosen by LinkedIn, and you can't just talk to AI and get a badge. So there we go. So our topic today, speaking of top voice, we're talking about true voice. So our topic today is authentic writing, unleashing your true voice. And I am a huge fan. And I was telling before we started today, and I kind of stopped myself because I thought, I got to wait and talk about this on the show, that I actually met you through your first book. I had literally just met you on Clubhouse. I think we were just starting to do the rooms together. It was you and me and Sarah Clay and Lauren Greif. And we would do these entrepreneur rooms during COVID and whatever. And I remember hearing about your book. And I went and I bought your book, and I have my Kindle here. I travel, so I always have to have my Kindle version. But I have your book with me, and I got to know you through your book. And it was just, I couldn't believe how personal you were, how authentic you were. So it just goes to show you. But anyways, what I wanted to say is, before we get stuck in, let's define that word. So when we talk about authentic writing, which to me, you're the poster child, what does that mean, Niraj?
It means being the real you and sharing your experiences. And when it came to a sales book, I did so much research, and I read up until that point, probably maybe 100 sales books. And what came across in most sales books was how much bragging took place. Well, I won this big deal. I won this big deal. I crushed this. I won this. I won this. And my career wasn't like that. Because I didn't get a mentor or even a coach as well until 16 years into my career. It was quite late. So I struggled so much in my career. And so I talk so much about the struggles and the failures and the difficulties. And that made the book sell very well because it was real. It didn't feel like another show-off sales book.
I love that. And to be honest with you, I wasn't expecting it. So when I first got your book, I was expecting, I'm just going to get, great tactics and tips on being sales, like how to do sales. And I thought, okay, I needed that at the time. So when I actually started to read your book, I was like, wow, I didn't expect this at all, because you were so real. And if you'll indulge me, I brought my Kindle version here with me, and I just wanted to read a portion just so that people would understand what I'm talking about with how much I like your writing. So, of course, my Kindle went out on me. So hang on one second. Okay.
That's what the book looks
here
like.
we go. So yes, hold it up while I'm talking. Okay. So this is in chapter 2. So you said, being single can be a real struggle. If you're attractive, it's fun. If you're rich, it's fun. If you're rich and attractive, I can't stand you. And when I read that, I laughed, but I thought, I hear you laughing in my head along with me, because it was just like such a beautiful thing. But you said, but seriously, tough if you haven't grown up in London and don't have looks or money. I had love handles you could hang a washing line on, acne in all the wrong places, national health care glasses, and was dressed by my father, so the odds weren't good. And then, of course, you go on to make lots and lots of serious points. But that, to me, is an example of you brought your whole self into it and you painted a picture, whereas you could have just said, I wasn't that attractive and I didn't have any, I didn't have very much money. And that would have been like 3 words and we wouldn't have got it. But you like painted a picture and that draws us in. So it's like we relax and then we're ready to like absorb the information. So just thought you did that beautifully.
Well, thank you. When I did my research, I was looking at a lot of the authors I was competing against. And you have people like Brian Tracy and Zig Ziglar, who are like almost like the founding fathers of personal development. You have Jeffrey Gitomer and Jeb Blunt, who are the biggest names in America. There is no advice I can give you that's better than theirs. No matter how hard I try, I can't sound more intelligent than them. And there's nothing I can say they haven't said already. But my experience is very different. And that's why I told this with so much story, because I do know from the story courses I've taken and the books I've read about stories, people connect with stories. And when I used to do sort of sales presentations in the office, I would often win, especially when I got coached in my career just shot up because I started to invest heavily in myself and go on courses. And one thing I was taught was storytelling. And if you just go and do another boring presentation or another demo, people hear demos all day. But if you start off with a story or you tell a story halfway through, you grab somebody's attention and you get them to listen. And I just find that's a better way of explaining things to people because people don't remember facts and figures as much, but they do remember stories.
So true. And so then would we then agree that a part of being, unleashing your true voice is digging into your stories and using a storytelling framework as a way to explain things, because in addition to just using great words, it's also making memorable points that we can relate to. So would you say that?
Oh, absolutely. It's funny because when I speak to personal development events, it's fascinating to hear a lot of these gurus speak because they almost all sound the same. I was $50,000 in debt. I slept on my sister's couch in my bed. They all have the same story. And so I don't believe a word they say because they all sound the same now. Literally, they all sound the same. They all had $50,000 to $100,000 of debt. They all slept on a best friend or a relative's couch for 6 months before they rebuilt their... It's all the same. And my story is different because it's about me. And because it was about me, I figured nobody else will necessarily have gone through specifically what I went through. But at the same time, there must be people out there who could relate to what I went through as well in terms of the struggle. And in terms of, I think in life, there's many people out there who genuinely, hand on their heart, try their best. But sometimes just don't get the success they believe they deserve. And that was me through my 20s. I was very frustrated that I was working day and night and not really getting anywhere. Of course, I can look back now and I can see so easily why I didn't get anywhere. But in your 20s, you didn't know. And in my 30s, you're just trying to raise a family and pay a mortgage and survive and get through life. And I just wish I could go back, Gillian, with the knowledge I have now. Oh, God, it would be amazing. I just start over again and just see what would happen,
I love that. And so I think the message I also take away then that your stories should be authentic and real and you and not just the same. Don't keep singing the same song as everyone else because we all go, we don't want to hear about your rags to riches, let's trot out that story and trot it back out. It's like, no, something real and personal that you went through, that also leads to your authenticity as opposed to just, insert story here.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can overcome stuff, that's great. But it's good to show your flaws. People don't hire me for LinkedIn training, nobody hires me because I'm the best, because I'm not the best. If you look at the top 10 people, even in the United Kingdom, with knowledge on LinkedIn, I would never feature in that because there's so many more people way smarter than me with more knowledge than me. But the reason they hire me is because I'm a bit different. It's because I understand sales, which a lot of LinkedIn coaches don't. It's because I have other skills like psychology and empathy, and I studied vision boards, and there's so many other skills I bring to the table. But knowing everything about LinkedIn, I know very little about LinkedIn. My LinkedIn knowledge is basic, but it's what's needed to help people get the results they want.
Mm-hmm. Well, it all leads to that know, like, and trust. And at the end of the day, we want to do business, not necessarily with the smartest person in the room. We want to do business with the person who we know, like, and trust, because are they the right fit for me? And the smartest person in the world may not be, because they might not have the empathy. They might not have the patience for my questions or understand what it's like to be so far behind. You know, I always like a coach who's just like maybe a couple steps ahead, because then they can remember what it's like when they were in my shoes and not kind of discount my knowledge, you know, my struggles. Anybody who discounts my struggles, I don't want to work with.
Being able to understand people, especially now, 2024 and beyond, is one of the most important things you can do. Because really, we should all be okay in 2024. There shouldn't be any problems. But unfortunately, there are, because a lot of people are taking longer than ever to make decisions. A lot of people, sadly, at the moment, are making no decisions. And don't forget, I'm a business owner, so it's affecting me, which is why I understand it when it affects other people. I do have a lot of solutions that work very well around that, but in the last few months, they're not working as well. And I've had to learn to adapt. For example, I never thought, Gillian, my biggest success this year would be writing letters to clients. Never would have thought that, but I did it because nothing else was working, and you have to try new things, and you have to pivot, and you have to, and even when I write letters, it's tremendously empathetic. It's understanding what people go through. I get where you are right now. I understand your frustrations. I'm going through them as well. Maybe people aren't making the decisions as quickly as you'd like. Maybe their budgets have been cut and they want more from you for less money. I get that. I'm going through the same thing, and I'm here to help. And that's how you talk to people. It's incredibly empathetic, because when people feel like you get them, they're more likely to say, okay, I'll give you a bit more of my time and we can talk. But if you just go straight in like 99.9% of scammers to saying, I can help you make 6 figures a year, I can help you get 20 leads a week, then it means nothing.
Agreed. So one question about, unleashing your true voice is it requires vulnerability. Because and that's probably the hardest thing for people, because I could imagine a writer, sitting down, they're banging out their book and they write something, and then they're just like, then they start second guessing. It's like, wow, do I really want to admit to the world that this happened to me? Because we don't live perfect lives, and we might have done things, and sometimes we do things, they're horrible experiences, and we just like, what was I thinking? Or something happened to us, and it's like, oh my God, do I really want to know the world to know how that happened to me? We always have the business face we present, but the author face is maybe a little bit more vulnerable. So how do you reconcile that, Niraj?
It's very simple. You meet me in real life. You meet me on LinkedIn, you meet me through my book, I'm exactly the same person. Because I figure I can't have 3 personalities. It's hard enough having 1 personality. So I don't have 3 personalities. And I like the fact when people say, you're exactly what I hoped you would be. To me, that's like the ultimate compliment. Because it just shows that, I know there are some people who go on LinkedIn and say, it's really important to be kind. And you meet them in real life, and you know what? They're actually not very nice people. And I just think it's really important to just be the good person, no matter where you are, no matter what platform you are, and no matter what reality you're in, whether it's digital or face-to-face.
Reminds me of John Asperian with his whole thing about being congruent and showing up the same place in the same, being the same person wherever you are. So yes, absolutely. I agree with that. So was this easy for you, or was there any struggle when you were, now I think you just like wouldn't even think about it. But maybe take us back. Were you writing like this before you wrote the book? Or like, which sort of came first, the chicken or the egg? Were you vulnerable in your posts on LinkedIn, so writing it was easy in a book? Or did you do it in the book and then brought it to LinkedIn?
Book first, because I was a nobody on LinkedIn. I wrote the book in 2017 and released it early 2018. I was a nobody on LinkedIn. I did what most people on LinkedIn did, Gillian. I had a profile, and every now and again I'd look at jobs, and every now and again I'd look at what former colleagues of mine were up to. And that was it. I didn't use LinkedIn properly because, like many people working 9 to 5 back then, I didn't think I had to. And also back then, LinkedIn was more of a job platform. That's why it was used. Oh, of course, it's evolved massively since then. And so I just really wrote about my experiences, figuring, okay, this is what I went through. And there's a real beauty in being naive sometimes. And there's no saying you don't know what you don't know. And if somebody had told me how difficult it would be to write a book and what you'd have to go through, would I have done it? I don't know. But because I hadn't a clue what I was doing, there was a beautiful naivety to it. And so I just wrote with pure joy every day with no expectations, because you don't know what you don't know. And that's why I'm saying, before you get involved in any project, of course, seek advice. Of course, get a coach or someone who's an expert in that area. But don't get too much advice, because it might put you off.
I like that. Because I think you're right. There are so many people that, they start a book, they have so much to say, and then they're like, oh my gosh, who am I to write this book? And then they just pack it up and go away, because they're like, oh no, someone's going to, out me, that I'm not the real person. And I think we all have, we said this before we started today. I truly believe that there is a book in all of us. For some of us, it's easy, that it just flows out of us. For others, we need somebody to hold our hand and help us through it. We're all born with different skills and abilities. But I think we all have wisdom and stories to share, and our all sorts of advice to give, especially as you get sort of in the midpoint of your life. You've spent so much time going through things that you're just like, let me give you a shortcut.
Actually, I got a secret to tell you. And I haven't told you this. I don't think I've told you this. So I spent 20 years as a screenwriter and sitcom writer in my free time. So if you go to imdb.com, which is one of the most popular movie sites in the world, you put in Niraj Kapur, you'll see a TV movie I wrote. You'll see a movie of mine that came out in 2012. You'll see kids shows. I mean, I spent a long time in my free time, because like I said, the first 15 years of my sales career, I didn't really want to be in sales. I just was in sales, but I really wanted to be a writer. So I think I should actually mention that, because obviously writing all those years meant it was a bit easier to find a voice, and writing came a bit more naturally to me than, say, somebody who was just starting a book from scratch. So I think that is important to mention. That's why the first book was so easy. The second book was more difficult because I wrote it in lockdown. And having just gone through a divorce and my client saying we have no money, I'm writing every day and the clock is ticking because I have no income. And after 25 years of working for a living and paying my taxes, especially the last 10 years where I was paying 40% tax, the government didn't give me a penny. And I had to fight the government and fight them. I managed to get about £1,600 over 5 months, which is about $2,500, which doesn't even cover anything really. But I had to fight and beg, say, guys, I have no income. You've got to help me here. And it was really difficult. So my second book was written so quickly. The third book I did right. I hired a team of people, which John Asperian recommended to me. God bless him. Thank you, John. And he recommended me amazing people. I hired them. I invested in £5,500, about $7,500 to $8,000, which is a lot of money in my third book, because I really wanted to do something amazing. And as a book, I'm so proud of it. It didn't take off the way I hoped it would, but my God, it's a good book, and I'm really proud of it.
And sometimes that is the greatest reward, just saying, I'm so proud of it. I'm so proud that this information is out there in the world. And to me, that defines success. It's not always, yes, we want book sales, but also too, we just want our words to change lives and get into the hands of the people that are needing that information. So that's good. And it's good that there is a journey like you take from your first book to your second to your third. But I didn't know that writing experience beforehand, because I just was like, how did he write so well out of the gate? Now
I never really talk about it because I kind of lost my soul when I went to Hollywood. I went there 2013 to 2015. And when you go to LA, everybody is like, oh man, we love the British. You guys are awesome. We want to work with you. Tell us your idea. Oh my God, we love your idea. Send us a screenplay, man. We'll be in touch. And you send them a screenplay. You hear nothing. You call them up. I go, hi, it's Niraj here. We met. Who? Oh, you told me I was amazing. Who are you? They say that to everybody. And it was soul destroying. And I came really close. Gerard Butler, the Scottish actor, big movie star, he optioned my action screenplay for $78,000, and it came so close to getting bought. But a few days beforehand, it kind of fell through because another project he was doing went over. And I met Charlize Theron's people. I was trying to get a project with her and Jason Bateman. I met Tom Cruise's ex-business partner of 25 years, Paula Wagner. I mean, I came so close. It just didn't work. And so I kind of lost my soul a bit after that. You spend 20 years of your life doing something and it doesn't work out. And people said I had success because I sold a lot of stuff, but it didn't feel like a success. And that's why I'm so happy with my first book, Everybody Works in Sales, because it gave me the closure to kind of cut that part of my life off and move on with a new part, which, by the way, is not easy to do.
I bet. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. There's a whole other book in there. So I'm going to just plant that little seed here. There's a whole other book in there, and I want you to come back and talk about it. Are you working? Well, actually, let me go to some comments, but I'm going to come back and follow up with that in a second. So, oh boy, we have a lot of comments. Okay, so we have
these comments.
Yes, Jeff Young, ready to listen to two top voices. I'm not an official one, although I do have a lot to say. And so, thank you very much for being here today, Jeff. Greetings to two of the most authentic, true voices I know. He's great because he likes to do a YouTube and a LinkedIn just to show me it's working and we're getting there. So we have a LinkedIn user saying hi to each other. We always love that. And they're saying hi back and forth. Gold top voices are on their way. Bye-bye. Jeff is not missing them at all. Our lovely friend, our lovely tea buddy, our lovely tea buddy.
Ears, hey, remember that? Our afternoon tea together? That was lovely.
We have a beautiful picture of that, and it was just such a timeless thing. And by the way, I don't know if you know this, but that was Tina's very first tea, and she had never been to an official tea before. And so that was kind of on her bucket list that when she went to the UK, she said, I must go to tea, and we just couldn't fit it into our London day. And you made it happen. So, okay. So Tina says, we all long for connection, and authenticity is a way to bring people together. That's so true. That's so true. I love that you said that, Tina. Marcia says, being single is obviously challenging. I was just having that conversation with a friend about this yesterday. So yes, these are real experiences, and a lot of people, they can't relate that anymore. Listen, I've been married for I think 25 years. I'm terrible with math. I think I've been married maybe 27 years, almost 30. I don't know. But it's I don't know what it's like to be single anymore because I have been married for so long and was married before. So, it's I spent more of my life being married than not being married. So I think you're right. You can't relate to something unless, you've been there. So interesting. Jeff says, I can relate, especially the love handles. And Marcia says, being authentic is absolutely important. People can peep the BS in, people can see. Maybe she means see the BS in people. So I think you're right. And we talked about that before, that's if you keep trotting out those same old stories and we just have to keep hearing, about how you got in the car accident and then it was an epiphany, and it's every webinar starts like that. It's stop. I don't need to hear that. Or like you said, everybody slept on somebody's couch with receipts all over and, trying to pay their bills. And we can see that BS. So Karen says, glad to be here. There are always great guest speakers on this platform. Well, thank you, Karen. That's nice. And Niraj, I have had you on several times because you just have so much a wealth of information to share. And look at Jeff. He's already done the homework. Check IMDb. How appropriate that you were a writer on The Storymaker.
Yeah, so it's a BBC. That's the first thing I ever did. And in children's writing, just so you all know, there's no minimum wage. So they've hit me less than minimum wage, the BBC. And but you know what? It was my first credit. And I did 2 episodes of the show, which was about a cow. And watching it was fantastic because the man puts his hand up a cow, puppet, and works the puppet like that. And there's a sheep, another person's work. It's insane. Yeah, kids' TV was interesting.
Wow. And I love this because it just kind of goes to show that we have these incredible backstories, and like, you need, I don't know if you've been on Sarah Burgess's career stories. Have you been? Because she loves to talk about like just
Sarah, I like and respect her, but I haven't actually been on that yet. No.
Well, I'm going to recommend she have you on her show, because having these career stories and coming from many, many diverse backgrounds, so many of us kind of, we just kind of go, that's my story. I was this, I was this, I was this. But it's really not, because it's like some people just, I'm going to be a doctor one day, and they just go and become a doctor, and that's it. They don't do anything else. But the rest of us, we do this and we do this. And I was going to be a lawyer, and I was going to be a librarian. And we have all these diverse things that we tried, we didn't do. But each one of them makes up a part of the picture of who we are today. So we're bringing all those experiences in, and we sometimes don't even realize the impact that all that has on what we do. So I think it's actually brilliant. So I'm loving learning all this. I'm loving learning all this about you. So that is brilliant. And let's see. Oh, okay. They're still trying to help each other with, okay. Yes, you told me last time. Oh, somebody's still trying to get their LinkedIn user thing worked out. So here's what I want to ask you. Are you working on anything new?
I have been hesitating on the fourth book. Because I didn't know what the fourth book was going to be about. No other reason. I'm like, what do I do next? And since my ADHD and autism this year, which was a big shock to me, only because my nephew is nonverbal autistic. He's 11 years old. So you can imagine having an 11-year-old who's nonverbal autistic and the impact that has on the family. He's a beautiful, gorgeous boy, and we adore him. So when I had back-to-back ADHD diagnoses, and then went to my GP and then a therapist who specialized in autism. She goes, oh, you definitely, within 2 minutes, she goes, you definitely have autism. I'm like, how do you know? And she goes, well, you walk in, you have a diary, you've got a pen, everything is compartmentalized, everything is ticked off as you go along. You sit by a window, because I always sit by windows. Everything is done according to a routine. I just thought they were brilliant routines and habits I have, but no, it was autism. So that's affected so much of my life. And I want to do a book about sales and talk about neurodiversity in sales. I think it has to be more than that, but that's kind of like a lot of the crux of the book. And I've spoken to several people who are neurodiverse saying, what do you think? And they love it. And I've spoken to people who aren't neurodiverse just to get an opinion, and they said, that's really good. So I've got a seed of an idea, but it's just an idea. And I now have, I think it's 21st of December until middle of January is my quiet time. So I've literally got 3 weeks to really flesh the idea out. But in the time being, I have notes here, notes in the toilet downstairs, notes in the living room. I have notepads in every room, and I'm always writing all the time in them. So at the moment, I'm just collecting ideas.
Ah, wonderful, wonderful. And I'm wondering if maybe even when you do Uplift Live, because we got to throw that in, that you're going to be a speaker at Uplift Live in 2025. And it's my plan. If the universe makes it, I've got my ticket. So I want to come. And actually, I might even see you before that in Vegas, maybe. So we'll talk about that. But so can you tell us about Uplift Live? Let's put in a plug for that, because that's a huge speaking engagement coming up.
Uplift Live was the best event I've been to this year. The speakers were outstanding, but what I loved about it was the feeling of care and togetherness and family and people looking out for each other. There was nobody there saying, I'm a big LinkedIn trainer. It was not like that. And I think John and Gus and Jeremy and Lois and everybody who was involved in this really set the right standards and the right example of how a conference should run. And it's something that even months afterwards, I still think about. What a wonderful day. And I'm so grateful that they asked me to speak. Naturally, I'll be speaking about sales. I'll probably start planning it a month beforehand. Personally, I think it's going to be mindset in sales, because mindset plays such a big role. It's not about me just sharing strategies and techniques. That's quite easy. But it's a mindset, because if you're trying to sell and you're having a difficult day with a family, it's harder. If you're trying to sell, but you're struggling with cash flow, it's harder to sell. If you're trying to sell, but you've got a toxic member of staff or a client, it's really hard to work with. Your mindset affects you in so many things you do. We now live in a world where people who are in their 20s and younger look at their phone every 1 minute and 5 seconds, which is shocking. And people my age look at it a lot less, but they still look at it 2 or 3 times an hour, and people are constantly distracted. So I definitely want to talk about mindset and sales performance. that's certainly a goal of mine. Now, of course, between now and next February, who knows what could happen. but that's certainly my plan for the time being anyway.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm looking forward to being there, clapping and cheering, and maybe going out for tea again. That would be nice. That would be nice. And I'll bring Tina with me. I know she's got a ticket too. So that's good if we can have a little reunion. So there we go. So, okay. So before we wrap this up, is there any kind of final words of wisdom you'd like to share with everybody today on our topic?
A lot of people do ask me, how much business do you get from writing a book? So it's important to address that. Even though my first book is still to this day selling after 6 years, which, just to clarify, it's between 30 and 40 copies a month. It doesn't sell hundreds of thousands of copies a month. It sells between 30 and 40 copies a month. It's fantastic, but it wasn't until I wrote my second book, people started to take me a bit more seriously. So I want you to bear that in mind. There are people who write one book, and that's enough for them. But for me, partly because it's sales, and sales is a harder subject to convince people on, it wasn't until the second book people started to take me seriously. And the third book, even though it didn't take off the way I wanted, the amount of business I got from it was fantastic. And having 3 books really does help. So if you're going to write a book, think about how you can write 2 books rather than just one, because it will just help your career more long term.
I love that. That's golden wisdom. So thank you for sharing that. That's wonderful. So thank you again for being here today and sharing all your knowledge. And thank you for everybody who has joined us on the LinkedIn Live and later will be listening on the podcast. And I really hope that you got out of today as much as I did, because I thought this was a fabulous conversation. So, and then just to put in a plug, you let me use that photo of yours in my little heart, and I appreciated that. And that was, again, to your integrity. I just said, can I use your photo? And you had no idea what I was. And you said, I trust you to do anything, Jillian. And that was like, that really made my heart sing that you would say that. I trust you to do anything. So it was just like, oh, thank you so much. So every time I see that little heart on my podcast in here, I always think of you because it's got wonderful books and I love it. So thank you, everyone. And we will see you back next week. Okay,
Thank you so much, Jillian, for having me. Take care. Thank you, everybody, for joining in.
Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Easy Peasy Books, From Author to Authority. If you found value in today's episode, I'd be grateful if you could leave us a review. It helps other aspiring authors discover our podcast. To learn more about writing, publishing, and leveraging your business book, visit my website at easypeasybooks.com.